In 1515, a child was born in the Spanish city of Ávila, Teresa of Ávila. Teresa was born into a family filled with contradictions. Her father, Alonso Sanchez de Tepeda, was a strict and devout man who placed great importance on honesty, moral responsibility, and discipline, while her mother, Beatriz de Ahumada, was gentler and secretly indulged in reading romantic novels, much to her husband's disapproval. These conflicting influences deeply shaped Teresa's personality, creating internal conflict. She was torn between her father's stern piety and her mother's more flexible, secretive nature. Her early years were marked by confusion, unsure whether her actions were pleasing to God or her parents. At the age of 7, she and her older brother devised a plan to run away and become martyrs, convinced that dying for their faith would bring them closer to God. Though they barely made it out of the city before being caught and returned home, this impulsive adventure foreshadowed Teresa's deep devotion and zeal for God that would define her life. As Teresa entered her teenage years, she found herself distracted by the typical concerns of adolescence: boys, fashion, and worldly pleasures. She rebelled against her father's strict discipline, seeking solace in distractions and worldly pleasures. At 16, after increasingly troubling behavior, her father decided to send her to a convent in Avila, hoping it would help her focus on her spiritual life. Initially, Teresa resisted this step. She found the convent's rigid rules and focus on contemplation stifling. However, over time, she began to appreciate the peace and structure the convent offered, far more tolerable than the strict discipline of her father's home. This marked the beginning of her spiritual journey, one that would lead her to make a life-altering decision between marriage and religious life. In 1535, at the age of 20, she entered the Carmelite convent in Avila, officially beginning her serious spiritual journey. Yet, her first 18 years in the convent were far from easy. Teresa struggled with spiritual dryness and a lack of deep connection with God. The convent she entered was filled with nuns more interested in socializing, vanity, and worldly pleasures than in deepening their spiritual lives. Despite her best efforts, Teresa found herself distracted by these worldly concerns, neglecting her own spiritual growth. Her prayers felt fruitless, and she struggled with a sense of disconnection from God, leading to frustration and spiritual stagnation. At the age of 39, Teresa fell seriously ill with malaria, a disease that left her bedridden for 3 long years. During this time, she grew further distanced from prayer, even believing that her illness was a valid excuse to abandon prayer altogether. However, through her suffering, Teresa experienced a profound transformation. She rediscovered the true essence of prayer, not as a perfect series of words or thoughts, but as an intimate relationship with God rooted in love. With this new perspective, her spiritual life began to flourish once again, leading to profound mystical experiences. Teresa began to experience ecstatic raptures in which she sometimes levitated and felt the overwhelming presence of God. These mystical encounters, while extraordinary, were not something Teresa sought or welcomed. She feared public acknowledgement of these experiences, believing they were not rewards but signs of God's chastisement, meant to deepen her love and devotion. However, one of her greatest challenges was breaking free from her attachment to earthly relationships, particularly with her close friends, whose companionship she deeply relied upon. In a moment of profound insight, God spoke to her, saying, "No longer do I want you to converse with human beings, but with angels." This powerful experience marked a turning point in Teresa's spiritual journey, and from that moment on, she focused solely on deepening her relationship with God, breaking free from earthly distractions. At the age of 43, Teresa felt a powerful call to reform the Carmelite Order, returning it to its original roots of poverty, simplicity, and devotion to prayer. In 1562, she founded the first convent of the Discalced Carmelites, St. Joseph's Convent, a community dedicated to a more austere and contemplative lifestyle. She emphasized that obedience should be practiced without excessive penance, and that contemplative life should be balanced with active service to others. Teresa passed away in 1582 at the age of 67, just days after founding another convent. In 1614, 32 years after her death, Teresa was beatified, and in 1622 she was canonized by Pope Gregory XV. In 1970, Teresa was declared a Doctor of the Church, one of the first women to receive this honor. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories.